The twin suns of Varix 9 burned red and cold over a land of broken steel and dust. Once this place had been a thriving colony, a home of trade and laughter, but now it was only fear and silence. Tall towers of black metal cast long shadows over the streets, and the overseer's banners flapped like warning signs. Every sound carried the echo of chains, and every step reminded the people that they were no longer free. In the middle of the plaza, soldiers in gray armor dragged a young alien woman to her knees. Her name was Lyra, her skin pale silver with faint blue veins glowing under the light. Her hair, once bright and proud, now hung tangled and dirty over her face. She had refused the overseer's order to serve the command post, a command no one dared to deny. And for that single word, for saying no, she was sentenced to die. The crowd gathered around, keeping their heads low. No one dared to speak, no one dared to move. The overseer himself, a tall reptilian creature with burning gold eyes, smiled as he lifted his staff. "This is what happens," he hissed. "To those who think their will matters more than mine." The soldiers laughed, their boots grinding against the metal floor. They dropped Lyra onto the ground like a piece of trash and turned to leave. "She'll be gone by night," one of them said. "Let the scavengers take what's left." The people turned away. They whispered prayers under their breath and scattered before the guards returned. No one noticed the figure watching from the edge of the ruins. A man wrapped in dust-stained armor. A human, one of the last few still wandering this world. Sergeant Cole Mercer had once been a soldier in the Earth Varix Defense Force. He had fought here years ago when humans tried to free the colonies from the overseers. But after the final retreat, he had stayed behind, unable to leave the innocent behind. Now he was a ghost in armor, a man who spoke to no one. He had promised himself he would never interfere again. War had taken everything from him, his unit, his home, his reason to care. But when he saw the soldiers laughing as they walked away from the dying girl, something inside him stirred. He told himself to look away, to keep walking. He had done it before many times, but her voice stopped him, a weak, trembling whisper carried by the dry wind. "Please, not like this." Cole's fists clenched. He remembered the voice of another woman long ago, his commander, shouting through static, "Leave no one behind." He had failed her once, he wasn't going to fail again. As night fell, the streets emptied. The lights of the overseer's patrols flickered in the distance. Cole moved through the shadows, his boots silent against the dust. He found Lyra still lying there, her breathing shallow, her silver skin streaked with blood and dirt. When she saw him, her eyes widened in confusion. "You're human," she whispered, as if she didn't believe it. "Yeah," he muttered, crouching beside her. "And you're lucky I'm a stubborn one." He pulled off his old jacket, wrapping it around her shoulders. Her body trembled from cold and fear. "I told them no," she murmured, voice weak. "I couldn't obey them. Not again." Cole didn't ask what she meant. He could see enough pain in her eyes to know the story was dark. "Can you walk?" he asked. She shook her head. "They cut my leg when I tried to run," Cole sighed, glancing around. He could already hear the distant hum of patrol ships. He knew what would happen if they found him here with her. Execution. No trial, still he lifted her into his arms, ignoring the pain in his shoulder. "Guess we're both breaking rules tonight," he said softly. She tried to speak again, but her eyes rolled back, and she fainted against his chest. Cole moved through the ruins, keeping to the dark alleys. He knew this part of the city. He had fought here once when humans still had tanks and hope. There was an old human bunker hidden under the wreckage of an old transport station. He kicked aside a metal grate and climbed down with Lyra in his arms. Inside, the air was cold and stale. He laid her gently on a dusty cot and searched through his pack for a field med kit. He cleaned her wounds, bandaged her leg, and forced her to drink a few drops of water. When he was done, he sat beside her, staring at the flickering lamp. Outside, the sound of engines rumbled across the night. The overseer's soldiers were hunting again. Cole gripped his old rifle, the one weapon he had kept through all the years of exile. He should have walked away. He told himself again that she wasn't his problem. But deep down he knew it was already too late. The moment he had stepped forward, his fate had changed. He looked at the sleeping alien girl and whispered to the empty room, "Guess I'm a soldier again." And outside, under the twin red suns of Varix 9, the wind carried the echo of something new, a promise. Quiet but unbreakable, a human had refused to walk away, and the world would soon remember what that meant. When dawn crept over the broken skyline of Varix 9, the light looked like fire bleeding through smoke. Inside the old human bunker, Sergeant Cole Mercer sat beside the alien girl. His rifle across his knees, he hadn't slept, not really, just stared at the cracked walls and listened for engines in the distance. Lyra's breathing was faint but steady now, her face pale under the weak glow of the lamp. He had patched her up with what little he had, scraps of bandages, an old stim pack and willpower. Cole told himself he would stay only until she could walk, then leave. That was his rule. Survive, move on, don't get attached. He had seen what happened to those who tried to save everyone. They ended up buried under the dust, names forgotten. But as he looked at her sleeping form, he felt that old ache again, the one he thought had died long ago. When Lyra stirred, she opened her eyes slowly. Blinking in confusion, her voice was soft. Cracked from thirst. Where am I? Old bunker, Cole answered, keeping his tone flat. You're safe for now. She looked around, her gaze falling on the faded human flag painted on the wall. Torn, dust-covered, but still visible. Her lips trembled slightly. You're a soldier? Used to be, he said. Now I'm just a man who couldn't mind his own business. Lyra tried to sit up, wincing as pain shot through her leg. Cole caught her shoulder gently. Easy, he muttered. You lost a lot of blood. I didn't ask for your help, she said weakly, her pride trying to rise even when her strength couldn't. Yeah, well, I didn't ask for trouble either, he replied dryly, handing her a canteen. She stared at it, then took a careful sip, her hands shaking. Why? She whispered. Why would a human help me? Your kind left us long ago. Cole looked away, his jaw tightening. Because I've seen what happens when we walk away, he said quietly. And I'm done doing that for a long time. Silence filled the bunker, broken only by the hum of the lamp. Then Lyra spoke again, her voice softer. They'll come for me. For us? Yeah, Cole said, checking his weapon. I counted 3 patrols last night. They're sweeping the district, Lyra swallowed hard. You should leave me. If they find you here, they'll kill you too. Cole gave a short, humorless laugh. Lady, I've been living under a death sentence since the war ended. This doesn't change much. As he spoke, the ground trembled. A low rumble echoed from above. Cole rushed to the wall and pressed his ear against the cold metal. Engines heavy and close. They're here, he muttered. He killed the lamp. Plunging the bunker into near darkness, Lyra's heart pounded as light beams flickered through cracks in the ceiling. Scanning the ruins above, voices shouted orders. Boots clanged against metal. Cole raised a finger to his lips. Signaling silence, she nodded. Clutching the blanket tight, the soldiers moved closer. One of them dropping down into the tunnel entrance, Cole aimed his rifle, breath steady. The alien guard stepped through the shadows, his armor glowing faintly blue. Cole fired once, the sound muffled by a silencer, and the guard collapsed without a word. Lyra flinched, but Cole didn't hesitate, dragging the body aside and motioning her to move. Time to go, he whispered. They'll send more. Lyra limped beside him. Leaning on the wall for support, they climbed through the maintenance tunnel until they reached the surface. Outside, the sky was filled with smoke and the distant wail of sirens. Cole scanned the area. The patrol had split up, searching in different directions. He led her toward the outskirts, where the ruins grew thicker and shadows deeper. They found shelter in the shell of an old transport garage. Lyra sank against a wall, exhausted, her silver hair sticking to her face. You shouldn't have done that, she whispered. You risked your life for me. Cole looked down at her, his expression unreadable. That's what soldiers do, he said simply. Even when there's no army left, Lyra's eyes softened. Soldiers? You still call yourself that? Cole sighed. I don't know what else to be. For the first time, she smiled faintly, though her eyes carried sadness. My father used to say something, she murmured. A soldier's code. Protect those who cannot fight. Even when no one is watching, Cole stared at her, startled. Your father said that? She nodded weakly. He believed in the old ways. That's why they killed him. Her voice broke at the last word, and Cole's fists tightened. Then we'll make sure they regret it, he said quietly, almost to himself. Outside, thunder rolled across the wasteland, not from weather, but from the engines of warships returning to the city. Cole peered through the cracks in the wall and saw the searchlights sweeping toward them again. He turned back to Lyra, determination settling in his eyes. You said they'll come for you. Fine, he said, but next time, we'll be ready. Lyra looked at him, confused and afraid, but something in his tone made her believe. For the first time since her capture, she didn't feel alone. Cole adjusted his rifle and glanced at the horizon where smoke met the dawn. He didn't know what this girl had done to defy the Overseer, but he knew one thing for sure. She was not dying on his watch. The code he'd buried for years had returned. A soldier protects even when the world forgets what that means. And Sergeant Cole Mercer had just remembered who he was. The next night fell heavy and strange, with dust storms rolling across the broken plains of Varix 9. Inside the ruined transport garage,
faint firelight flickered over metal walls as Cole cleaned his rifle and listened to the wind.
Lyra sat nearby, her injured leg wrapped in rough bandages. Watching the shadows dance, neither of them had spoken for a long time. The silence filled with unasked questions and the quiet hum of distant patrol drones. Cole finally broke the silence. "You never told me why they wanted you dead." Lyra looked down at her hands, her silver fingers trembling slightly. "Because I said no," she whispered. "And because of what I am," he frowned. "What you are." She hesitated, then slowly pulled back the sleeve of her torn uniform, revealing a strange mark glowing faintly on her wrist. It wasn't a tattoo or a wound. It shimmered like light trapped under her skin, forming a circular crest made of thin golden lines. Cole leaned closer, eyes narrowing. "I've seen something like that before," he muttered. "During the Old War," Lyra nodded weakly. "You humans called it the Royal Sigil, the symbol of the ancient Varexian bloodline." Cole blinked. "You're royal?" Her expression hardened. "I was supposed to be. Before the Overseers came, my family ruled the cities with fairness, not fear." Her voice wavered as she continued. "When they invaded, they killed the elders, erased the records, and forced the remaining heirs into servitude. I hid my mark, lived as a commoner, and obeyed their orders until—" She stopped, tears catching in her throat. "Until they told me to betray my people. I refused." Cole sat back, processing her words. He had fought the Overseers long enough to know they hated symbols of hope more than weapons. "So they tried to wipe out your bloodline," he said quietly. Lyra nodded, her eyes dim. "They call us the Cursed Ones now. They think we're extinct," Cole smirked faintly. "Guess you're proving them wrong." A low rumble echoed outside, and the engines again. Closer this time, Cole's head snapped toward the window, scanning the horizon through the smoke. He saw bright lights weaving across the sky. Search drones. Hundreds of them. "They're tightening the net," he said. "Someone reported movement out here," Lyra tensed. "Then we have to go." Cole shook his head. "You can't run on that leg, and I can't outgun that many. We'll move at dawn when the scanners reset." Lyra clutched her wrist, staring at the glowing sigil. "If they find me, they'll take this mark. They'll rip it from my skin." Cole raised an eyebrow. "They can do that?" "Yes," she whispered. "They extract it and implant it into loyal soldiers to create false heirs, copies to control the people." Cole's jaw tightened. "That's low even for them." He stood, pacing the room, thinking fast. He needed supplies, weapons, maybe a route through the underground tunnels beneath the old human sectors. When he glanced back at Lyra, she was staring at the human flag patch on his jacket. "You carry your own mark," she said softly. "Different, but the same idea. A symbol of what was lost." He followed her gaze and gave a tired smile. "Yeah, well, mine doesn't glow in the dark." For the first time since they met, she laughed, a short, fragile sound that made the room feel less dead. The laughter didn't last long. The sound of metal striking stone echoed outside. Cole froze, motioning for silence. He crawled to the window and saw armored figures moving between the wrecks. Bounty hunters, not soldiers. Their armor was black with blue visors, and their weapons hummed with plasma charge. "Scavenger Guild," Cole muttered. "They sell bodies for credits." Lyra's face went pale. "They're not just after money. The Overseer promised them command ranks for my head." Cole's mind raced. He turned to her. "Can you stand?" She nodded weakly. "I'll try." He handed her a small pistol from his belt. "Don't miss," he said dryly. She looked at it nervously. "I've never used one." "Then aim where it hurts most," he replied, chambering around in his rifle. The bounty hunters moved closer. Flashlights sweeping through the garage. Cole fired first, 1 shot, 2, 3. The nearest fell before they even saw him. But there were more, circling fast. Plasma bolts struck the walls, showering sparks everywhere. Lyra ducked behind a crate, clutching the pistol. Cole rolled to cover, firing short bursts, his instincts kicking in like the war never ended. Then a sudden scream. One of the hunters dropped, clutching his leg. Lyra had fired, her hands shaking but her eyes steady. "Good shot," Cole yelled, returning fire. She smiled faintly through the smoke. "I learned from the best." Minutes later, the last hunter fell, smoke rising from his armor. Cole stepped out, scanning the bodies. "They'll send more," he muttered. Lyra looked up at him, exhausted. "You could still leave me. They're after me, not you." He shook his head, wiping blood from his cheek. "You think I came this far to quit? Not my style." As they gathered supplies from the fallen, Lyra felt the mark on her wrist pulse brighter than before. Cole noticed it and frowned. "That thing's reacting." Lyra nodded slowly. "It's waking something. I can feel it." "What kind of something?" She met his eyes, voice trembling. "Something ancient. Something that was hidden deep under this planet before the war." Cole glanced toward the wasteland beyond the garage, where a storm of red dust was rising like fire. He had seen enough war to recognize when fate was moving. He slung his rifle over his shoulder and said quietly, "Then I guess we're going to find out what your mark's trying to tell us." The girl with royal blood and the human soldier stepped into the storm together, unaware that beneath their feet, something older than both their races had begun to stir. And for the first time in centuries, Varix 9 whispered again, "The true blood has awakened." The morning on Varix 9 began with thunder that wasn't weather. The sound came from above, engines roaring, cannons loading, the overseer's ships moving in formation. From the ridge beyond the ruins, Cole and Lyra watched black warcraft streak across the sky like a swarm of angry crows. Columns of smoke rose where towns once stood, and every explosion painted the horizon orange. The overseer wasn't searching anymore, he was cleansing. Cole lowered his binoculars and muttered, "He's burning his own people just to find you." Lyra's hands trembled, her mark glowing faintly through the dust. "They think fear will break us," she said softly. "But it only feeds what's left inside me." Cole glanced at her. "Careful, kid. I've seen what vengeance can do." She met his eyes with quiet fire. "And I've seen what silence does. My father stayed silent until they took his crown and his life." The wind carried screams from the valley below. Families running, ships strafing the ground, children crying, the kind of chaos Cole had tried to forget. He couldn't stand it anymore. He slung his rifle over his back and turned toward the old transport yard. "There's an evac craft buried under the east hangar," he said. "Old human model, still half intact. We can use it to pull people out." Lyra stared at him in disbelief. "You'd risk everything for strangers?" He gave her a faint, grim smile. "That's the job, remember? Soldier's code." Together they ran through the ruins, keeping low under broken walls as drones passed overhead. The air smelled of ash and ion fire. Cole kicked open a rusted hatch, revealing a forgotten hangar filled with wrecks and fuel drums. Inside, half buried under debris, rested a transport shuttle marked with the faded emblem of the Earth-Varix Alliance. "Still beautiful," Cole murmured, brushing off the dust. Lyra placed her hand against the hull. Her glowing mark shimmered, and lights flickered to life along the frame. Cole blinked. "How did you—" "The ship recognizes command energy," she said softly. "Humans built it with royal circuitry so it could answer to both species." "Well, lucky us," Cole muttered, climbing into the cockpit. "Let's see if she still flies." Minutes later, the engines screamed to life, shaking off years of silence. Refugees began running toward the sound. Waving frantically, Cole opened the side bay, helping them climb aboard. Mothers, children, wounded miners, faces full of fear and disbelief. Lyra moved among them, comforting them gently, whispering that the skies would be free again one day. When the last one was aboard, Cole sealed the hatch and looked at her. "Ready?" She nodded. "Do it." The shuttle lifted off just as the overseer's drones locked onto their signal. Blue lasers tore through the clouds. Missing by inches, Cole gritted his teeth, jerking the controls. "Hold on." The ship rolled through smoke, dodging bursts of plasma fire. Lyra clung to the console, using her energy mark to stabilize the shields. Her voice shook. "They won't let us go." "Then we make them miss," Cole growled. Flipping the manual override, the transport screamed across the sky. Chased by 4 interceptors, Cole flew low over the ruins, weaving between fallen towers and bridges. The refugees screamed as debris exploded around them. Lyra's strength faltered, Her mark flickered weakly, her breathing ragged. "I can't hold the shield much longer," she gasped. "Just a little more." Cole said, "We're almost clear of the zone." But one of the interceptors fired a charged bolt straight at them. The blast hit the rear thruster. Alarms wailed. Lights died, the ship spun out of control. "Brace," Cole shouted, slamming the emergency gear. The transport crashed into the wasteland, sliding across black sand before burying itself halfway into the ground. Silence followed, broken only by the hiss of burning metal. Cole groaned, his vision blurred, his arm bleeding. He looked back. The refugees were alive but shaken. Lyra was slumped over the console. Unconscious, he crawled to her side, shaking her shoulder. "Lyra, stay with me!" Her eyes fluttered open, her mark dim but still pulsing. She whispered weakly, "It's not over yet." "The storm has eyes," Cole frowned, confused. "What?" Before he could ask, the ground beneath them trembled. The sand shifted like waves, revealing metal beneath the surface. Enormous plates. Centuries old, from deep underground came a low hum, ancient and alive. Lyra's mark began to glow again, brighter this time. Golden lines spreading across her arm. She lifted her hand, tears streaming down her face. "It's calling to me." "To us." Cole stared in disbelief as the desert floor split open. A massive structure rose from the depths, not alien, not human, but something built long before their wars. It was a giant machine, a battle colossus made of forgotten alloys, its eyes burning with golden light. Symbols along its hull matched Lyra's mark exactly. "What in hell?" Cole whispered, backing away. Lyra's voice trembled. "The old guardians? My ancestors built them to protect the true bloodline. The overseer buried them, but they still remember." The enormous machine turned its head toward them, systems roaring to life. It knelt down, the ground shaking under its weight, and a voice echoed inside both their minds. "Royal signature confirmed. Human command code detected. Unit Ironheart awaiting orders." Cole blinked, his hand gripping his rifle. "Ironheart?" Lyra smiled weakly, her glow reflecting in his visor. "The last protector of Verex." The sky above them burned red as overseer warships closed in. Cole looked from the machine to Lyra, then back at the incoming fleet. "Guess we're not running anymore," he said quietly. Climbing toward the machine's cockpit, Lyra followed, her energy connecting with the ancient core as they took control. Ironheart's chest glowed brighter than the twin suns. The hum turned into a roar. The battle for Verex 9 had begun, and for the first time in centuries, humanity and royal blood stood side by side again, ready to set the sky on fire. The wasteland burned like a forge, and from its molten heart, the ancient war machine rose in full glory. Ironheart, the last protector of the lost Verexian bloodline, stood towering against the blazing sky, its armor glimmering with golden lines of power. Each step it took shook the ground, scattering dust and shards of metal into the air. Inside its massive cockpit, Sergeant Cole Mercer sat at the control seat, surrounded by blinking panels and ancient glyphs that pulsed like veins of light. Beside him, Lyra's hand rested on the glowing core, her energy mark merging with the ship's symbols in rhythmic flashes. Cole's voice was calm but steady. "You sure this thing won't blow us to pieces?" Lyra smiled faintly despite her exhaustion. "It only obeys those it recognizes, and right now it recognizes you." "Lucky me," he muttered, gripping the control lever. "Let's make it earn that trust." Above them, the Overseer's fleet tightened formation, black ships circling like vultures. Their engines screamed through the sky, raining blue plasma onto the ruins below. Cole adjusted the weapon systems, the ancient displays translating alien symbols into human code. "Ironheart's loaded," he said. "Let's see what it remembers." The mech's chest opened slightly, releasing a burst of light that split the clouds. A rail of plasma energy erupted, tearing through the lead warship. The explosion painted the heavens gold. Lyra gasped, her voice trembling with awe. "It remembers everything." The remaining ships dove down, launching volleys of energy missiles. Cole maneuvered Ironheart with surprising grace for its size, stepping between blasts, the sand around them turning to glass. "Hold steady," he shouted. "We can't take a direct hit on the core." Lyra nodded, extending her hand. The mark on her wrist flared brighter, forming a shield of golden light around the cockpit. Each missile that struck it disintegrated into harmless sparks. Cole looked at her in disbelief. "You're powering the shield?" "It's part of the bond," she said through clenched teeth. "My blood gives it strength, your command gives it direction." Cole grinned. Guess that makes us the perfect team. They pressed forward through the storm of fire. Each step Ironheart took sent shockwaves rippling through the battlefield. Cole aimed the mech's arm cannons, firing bursts that sliced through drones and skimmers. Lyra coordinated through the energy network, targeting the Overseer's power grid buried beneath the sands. "Destroy the tower on the East Ridge," she said. "It's their relay. Cut that and the fleet loses control." "Copy that," Cole replied, turning the massive machine toward the ridge. The Overseer himself watched from his command vessel, his golden eyes narrowing. "How is that machine alive?" He hissed, his claws digging into the console. "Human interference," one of his lieutenants reported. "The soldier must have activated the relic." The Overseer slammed his fist down, then burned them both, and the relic with them. Dozens of heavy bombers descended, their shadows darkening the wasteland. Cole's heart pounded as Ironheart's sensors lit up with warnings. "Too many targets," he muttered. "We're surrounded." Lyra's hand tightened on the core. "Then we make them see," she whispered. Energy surged through her body, flooding the cockpit with light. Cole shielded his eyes. "Lyra, what are you doing?" She opened her eyes, glowing gold, awakening Ironheart's memory. Suddenly, Ironheart's systems roared to full life, more power than before. Ancient circuits that had slept for centuries flared awake, responding to her royal signature. Cole's console lit up with a new interface, one written in both English and Varexian. "New systems online," he read aloud. "Autonomous drones. Orbital weapons. Wait, this thing controls satellites?" Lyra nodded, her voice echoing with power. Ironheart was never just a mech. It was a fortress built to defend an entire world. The skies split open as dozens of ancient drones launched from the sand, sleek and golden like shards of sunlight. They swarmed upward, meeting the Overseer's fleet head-on. Lasers clashed in the clouds, and explosions thundered across the horizon. Cole maneuvered Ironheart through the chaos, firing beam after beam, each one tearing through enemy hulls below them. Refugees and miners stopped running. They stared up at the golden giant standing against the storm. One child pointed to the sky and shouted, "The human came back." Another whispered, "No. Someone never left." The Overseer's fleet began to falter. Lyra's strength was fading fast. Sweat pouring down her face, Cole noticed and reached over, gripping her shoulder. "Hey, you've done enough." She shook her head, her voice weak but firm. "Not until they're gone." He nodded, eyes hardening. "Then let's finish it together." They focused all Ironheart's power into one final strike. The ground cracked as energy charged through the mech's core, light brighter than the suns themselves. The Overseer's warships descended in panic, their sensors overwhelmed, and then the world erupted. A single beam burst from Ironheart's chest, carving through the main dreadnought. The explosion ripped through the sky, splitting it in two. The blast wave rolled across the wasteland, shaking the bones of the planet. Cole and Lyra shielded their eyes as the enemy fleet burned and fell like dying comets. When the light faded, silence returned. Only the hum of Ironheart remained. Standing tall amidst the ashes, Cole exhaled slowly, hands trembling. Lyra slumped beside him, pale but smiling. "We did it," she whispered. He looked at her and gave a quiet nod. "Yeah, we did." But deep inside he knew this wasn't over. The Overseer wasn't dead. Not yet, and somewhere in the smoke. A faint voice hissed through the comms. "You think you've won, human? You've only awakened what sleeps beneath." Cole's gaze turned toward the horizon where black clouds swirled over the fortress city. He checked his rifle and whispered, "Good, let it wake." Because this time he wasn't walking away, and neither was Ironheart. The sun over Varex 9 was blood red, painting the battlefield in burning light. Smoke curled through the ruins like ghosts, and Ironheart stood tall amidst the wreckage, battered, scorched but unbroken inside the cockpit. Cole's hands trembled as he adjusted the controls. The panels flickering weakly, every warning light was flashing. Fuel low, power draining, armor cracked. He looked at Lyra, her head bowed, her skin pale, and her mark dim. The glow that once lit the cabin now fading fast. "Stay with me," Cole said quietly, checking her pulse. "We're almost there." She smiled faintly, her voice a whisper. "Almost where?" He looked toward the distant black spire that pierced the horizon. The Overseer's fortress. "Right there," he said, his tone hardening. "We finished this." Lyra tried to sit up, gripping the console. "Cole, you don't have to." He cut her off. "Yes, I do." He turned back to the controls, jaw tight. If we leave him alive, all this starts again. Every child, every world, every freedom, and gone. His voice softened for a second. You said your father believed in protecting those who can't fight. Well, so do I. Lyra reached for his hand, her fingers trembling. Then I'll go with you, she whispered, until the end. Cole squeezed her hand gently. No, kid, you've done enough. But Lyra shook her head, her eyes glowing faintly again. Ironheart won't respond without both of us now. We're linked. Your command. My blood. Cole exhaled slowly, realizing she was right. Then I guess we ride together. He pushed the throttle forward. Ironheart roared, gears grinding as it charged toward the fortress. The ground split under its steps, sending clouds of dust into the air. Enemy drones swarmed from the towers, black wings slicing through smoke. Cole aimed Ironheart's cannons, firing burst after burst, tearing through the first wave. Explosions lit the ruins like firestorms, debris raining down around them. But for every drone destroyed, 2 more appeared, screeching through the sky. Shields are gone, Cole shouted. We can't take another hit. Lyra's mark flared suddenly, energy surging through the cockpit. Her voice was faint but steady. Then we won't need them. She placed both hands on the glowing core, and light spilled from her skin. Outside, Ironheart's broken armor began to mend, plates sealing themselves with molten gold. Cole stared wide-eyed. You're repairing it, Amau. Her voice echoed softly, not entirely her own. The machine responds to life, not metal. My blood carries the key. The Overseer's voice cut through the comms, deep and venomous. You think that old relic will save you? You're just delaying extinction, Cole snarled. Funny, that's what I told your kind the last time they tried this. He drove Ironheart through the first wall of the fortress, the entire structure shaking under the impact. Drones scattered as massive cannons turned to fire, but Cole was faster, tearing through defense lines like a storm. Sparks and fire filled the air, the sound of vengeance. Finally, they reached the central chamber. A dome of dark crystal and metal veins. At its center stood the Overseer, tall, armored, his golden eyes blazing with fury. You dare bring a human into my throne? He hissed. Cole climbed down from Ironheart's shoulder, rifle in hand, his boots crunching against the glass floor. Funny, he said coldly. I thought you lost the right to call it a throne when you started burning your own people. The Overseer raised his staff, energy crackling around it. You are nothing, human. A ghost of a forgotten war. Cole stepped forward, eyes steady. Maybe, but ghosts have a habit of haunting monsters like you. He fired. The bullet struck the Overseer's chest. But instead of blood, light poured out. The alien laughed. Foolish. You cannot kill what is eternal. Lyra appeared behind him, weak but standing, her glowing mark brighter than ever. No, she said softly. But we can end your reign. She lifted her hand, and Ironheart's eyes blazed gold through the cracks in the fortress. Energy flowed from her body to the machine, filling the air with blinding light. Cole looked at her, realization dawning. She was linking herself directly to Ironheart's core. Lyra, stop. It'll kill you, she smiled, tears in her eyes. Then I'll die free, not as their slave. Cole's heart pounded, torn between saving her and stopping the Overseer. But there was no time. The fortress began to crumble, the energy inside reaching overload. The Overseer screamed in rage, lunging at them, but Ironheart's massive arm crashed through the ceiling, grabbing him mid-air. Royal command confirmed, a deep mechanical voice echoed. Executing final purge. The machine's chest opened one last time. Light consuming everything, Cole grabbed Lyra, pulling her close as the fortress exploded. Fire and wind roared around them, the world turning white. Then a silence. When the smoke cleared, the fortress was gone. Only the ruins of the spire remained, molten and broken. Ironheart knelt in the middle of the crater, its armor blackened, its lights fading. Cole climbed from the cockpit, his suit scorched, blood dripping from his arm. He looked around desperately. Lyra? She lay beside the core, her mark dim, her breathing shallow. He dropped to his knees, lifting her gently. Hey, kid. You did it. We won. Her lips curved into the faintest smile. Then maybe peace will remember us. Her eyes closed, the glow fading completely. Cole held her close, his chest heavy with grief and pride. Above them, the clouds finally broke, sunlight pouring down for the first time in years. The war was over. But the soldier who refused to walk away was left kneeling beside the last royal heir. And as Ironheart's final system shut down, a quiet voice echoed from within, promise kept. World secured, Cole stood slowly, gazing at the sky. For once, he whispered, I hope that's true. And under the golden dawn, the legend of Varax 9 was born, of a human soldier who refused to walk away, and a girl whose courage lit the stars. The fires of war had cooled, leaving only silent smoke, and the slow heartbeat of a world learning to breathe again. The fortress of the Overseer was gone, reduced to a field of molten glass that still shimmered under the twin suns. Wind whispered through the ruins of Varax 9, carrying ashes and hope in equal measure, and in the heart of that silence, a single man stood beside a fallen giant Ironheart. The golden mech that had once roared against the heavens now lay still, half buried in the sand, its core dim. Sergeant Cole Mercer sat against its cracked armor, his helmet off, his face streaked with dust and dried blood. Days had passed since the final battle, and still he hadn't left her side. Lyra rested on a cot beside him inside a temporary shelter made from Ironheart's armor plates. She hadn't woken since that final surge. Her breathing faint, her mark dull like a dying ember. Cole spoke softly, even though she couldn't hear. You know, I was supposed to die a long time ago. He looked up at the sky, the faint shimmer of distant ships returning, transports carrying refugees rebuilding crews' life. I stayed because of a promise, he said, voice rough. To protect the ones who couldn't fight back. Guess that's what kept me moving. He looked down at her again, brushing a strand of silver hair from her face. Now you've got a world to protect too, even if I can't stay to see it. The sound of footsteps broke the silence. A young alien mechanic entered, one of Lyra's people, his face covered in soot but his eyes bright. Sir, he said respectfully, the others are coming from the valley. The survivors. They're asking for their leader. Cole smiled faintly. Then tell them she's resting, and she'll be ready when this world needs her. The mechanic nodded, glancing at Lyra with awe. They're calling her the Light of Varax. Cole chuckled quietly. Yeah, sounds like her. He stepped outside, the wind tugging at his torn jacket from the ridge. He could see the refugees gathering, building tents, planting makeshift flags, one alien, one human. For the first time since the war began, there were no overseer banners, no soldiers barking orders, only people, rebuilding something worth living for. Cole watched them in silence, pride swelling in his chest. Behind him, a soft voice whispered, You're leaving, aren't you? He turned sharply. Lyra was standing at the edge of the shelter, leaning weakly on the frame, her eyes open and glowing faintly once more. He froze for a moment, then smiled in disbelief. You always wake up when I'm about to say goodbye. She smiled weakly. You were never very good at walking away, were you? He laughed quietly. Guess not. Lyra took a slow step toward him, the wind brushing her silver hair. The people are looking for you, she said softly. They call you the Guardian of Ironheart. Cole shrugged. I'm no guardian. Just a soldier who got lucky one more time. She shook her head gently. No, Cole. You reminded us what strength looks like when it's born from kindness. For a moment they stood together in silence, looking over the reborn colony. Then Lyra spoke again, her tone changing. Ironheart. It's still alive, you know. Cole turned, surprised. What do you mean? The core's gone cold. She placed her hand on the metal surface, her mark glowing faintly. I can still feel it, she whispered. It's waiting, asleep, but listening. The machine remembers its last command, Cole frowned. What command? Her voice softened. To protect this world. And you gave it that order. He looked up at the giant, feeling the faint vibration beneath the metal. Maybe she was right. Maybe Ironheart wasn't dead, just resting, guarding like him. A long silence followed before Cole finally said, You don't need me here anymore. You've got a people to lead. Lyra looked at him sadly. And where will you go? He glanced toward the horizon. Endless dunes stretching under the twin suns. Wherever someone needs help, he said simply. Soldiers don't retire, they just keep moving. Lyra reached out, touching his hand. Then take this, she said, placing a small shard of Ironheart's core in his palm. It glowed softly, pulsing in rhythm with her mark. A piece of home, she whispered. It will remind you that even in the darkest places, something still listens. Cole closed his fist around the shard, nodding. I'll keep it safe. He turned to leave, but stopped when he heard her say, "Cole?" He looked back. Lyra stood tall now, the wind catching her robe, her mark blazing bright once more. "Thank you," she said softly, for refusing to walk away. He smiled faintly, tipping his head. "Anytime, princess." Then he walked into the desert, his figure fading into the crimson light. Behind him, the people of Varix 9 raised their banners and rebuilt their world under the twin suns. And in the heart of the wasteland, Ironheart's eyes flickered once, a faint golden glow pulsing like a heartbeat. Long after legends faded and stars turned cold, they would still tell the story of the human soldier who stayed behind, of the alien princess who turned pain into hope, and of the promise that bound them both, a promise kept beneath a burning sky, that no one, human or alien, would ever be left to die alone again.